yourself, your family, and your life savings. So what you're putting in your nest egg, we want to make sure that it goes where you want it to go. And I'm Cindy Nelson, Nelson Elder Care Law. You do not have to be an elder to work with us. We work with people over 18, so I think y'all qualify, right? We're right here in Woodstock and also in Marietta. I'm going to tell you a story about a friend of mine. Cindy Allen was her name, and all of a sudden it was a Saturday night before Thanksgiving, and many of us that were very close to her got a call because she had had a stroke. So it was just a Saturday evening, she was at home with her boyfriend, and all of a sudden had this stroke. He called 911, they took her to the hospital, called the family. She had 3 young 20-year-old children, and she also had some grandchildren, living with her boyfriend, not married, and it was her house. Well, with this stroke, she was actually unconscious. They couldn't get her out of it until the day before Thanksgiving. So the kids were all going through this trauma. The youngest one, Brittany, I mean, she was so much like her mom and just a basket case. You know, she couldn't stand to see her mom this way. Think about living life without her mom. The other one, the next oldest girl, she was the one that gets everything together. So I don't think she was really thinking about it. You know, she was trying to wrestle the family and the friends, and she's in there doing mom's hair because mom would never be seen without her hair done, and putting makeup on her and all this in the hospital. And then the oldest child was a son, and him and his mom had been arguing and not really talking for a couple years. So the guilt just came over him. Well, Cindy woke up the day before Thanksgiving, and she sat up in the bed. Ryan, the boy, wasn't there, but the 2 girls were, and she said, "I want you to know I love you." And then she laid down and died. Yes. So can you imagine what these 20-year-olds went through? She, of course, didn't have much of a plan. She did have a will, but a will needs to go through probate court, as you guys probably know, working in the court system. And she's living there with the boyfriend. So first things are, these young kids got to figure out, how do they get money for a funeral? You know, none of them, they're all trying to make ends meet. And so they're trying to get money for the funeral. Their dad is not in the picture. What do they do? So we all loan them money to pay for the funeral. They can't get into the bank account. She had some money, but they can't get into it. Well, as soon as they're kind of getting over that, then it's like, what do they do with the boyfriend that's living in the house? Because they never really liked him anyway. So they're trying to figure out, how do they get him out of the house? What do they do with the car? Figure out what is probate and how do we get through it. But all this time, they can't get any access to her money because they can't get in her bank account. But the bills are still coming in, so she's got medical bills. She's also got a mortgage and utilities. So all of this stuff is coming as these kids are trying to grieve. This is not an uncommon picture. And so I want you to recognize what this looks like. I feel like my job is to go around and help people understand and educate you as to what life is like if you don't do anything and what life is like if you do. So all of us think, that's not going to happen to us, right? That's, you know, somebody else, she just had some bad luck. It's so terrible that this happened to her, but that was just bad luck. Nobody else is going to ever have that happen. But it happens every day. I call them curveballs of life, and they just keep coming at us. They're a little bit different. Some are slow pitch, some are faster, but they keep coming. What does this look like in our everyday real life? And what legal tools everybody over 18 needs? Is let's get this taken care of, checked off of our list, and move on. What are your priorities? This is for people that have someone in their life that they love. If you don't have anyone in your life that you love, then it doesn't matter if you don't do anything. It's okay. And I've had people come in that say, you know, well, I don't have anybody, so I really don't care what happens after I get sick or pass away. Like, well, when you get sick, even if you don't have somebody, you might want somebody to use your money, you know, whatever way. So if you don't have anybody, if you don't have like a nest egg, if you have been saving up, because we all skip and save. I heard you say, okay, so I wasn't going to spend any more money, right? And it's because you were going to save it for some future thing that is appealing to you, whether that's to go on a trip or to buy a new sofa or to get a car or for retirement. We all have things that we're making sacrifices today for so that we could have something better in the future. If you don't have anything like that, then this is not for you. But if you do, then stick with me. If you want to be known as someone that takes care of the people you love, I have to tell you, my friend Cindy, who I loved, we were friends for a very long time, but the fact that she left her family in such a disaster clouded my opinion of her. Until all of that was through, I couldn't think of what a sweet, nice, wonderful woman she was, because all I could see was trying to help her kids go through this horrific, just heartbreaking time. And now I'm through that, they're through that, now I can see that she was one of the nicest people that you ever knew. But it clouded my judgment or my thoughts of her because of what happened. Now, she was young. She didn't really know. And I'm sure nobody had told her. And that's one of the reasons why I want you all to know, is I don't want you to be on any side of this. And then the final thing is, if you just don't want to leave a disaster, if you don't want to be known for ruining people's lives, you need to take some action. And I know that sounds harsh, but trust me, I see it every single day, how lives can get ruined. And it's not just somebody else, it's all of us. So what are your priorities? And you don't have to answer. But a lot of us have faith, or we have our families. Some people, money is a priority. I know people that will do a lot of things for money, right? They're motivated by money. A lot of us women are motivated by relationships. We want to connect with other people. But what is your motivator? Is it your family? Is it your faith? Is it something different? And then, how do you today think that you're protecting those highest priorities for you? What are you doing to protect them? And part of it is you're coming to work every day, right? You're making an income, and you're thinking about the future. You're probably doing daily care. We get caught up in what we have to do every single day, especially if you are a mother or a grandmother, and you've got these daily routines. Most things that have to do with law are not planned in advance, and that's more of what you guys see here. So I get a ticket, or I get an accident, I get a lawyer. I don't like my spouse, I want to get rid of him, I get a lawyer. You know, something happens that motivates it. Maybe someone sues me, I get a lawyer. But most times when people get a lawyer, it's because of something happening, and then they have to get a lawyer. They're pushed into that. You're not really pushed into this. You don't have to do anything. If you do nothing, you're still going to die. I mean, that's all there is to it. We're still going to die even if we do nothing. No plan, it doesn't matter. Nobody cares, but it's going to happen. You can't stop it. So I like to say that for this type of law, there's two ways of doing it. There's the easy way, which is you sit down when things are not going badly, and you put together a plan. It's cheaper, it's easier. You don't have to talk about, I'm not going to ask you to sit down at the dinner table with your family and say, well now, if I die, here's what I want to happen. It's not like that at all. We make this so easy that you don't have to have those gory conversations. But if you don't do something, it's pretty gut-wrenching, it's expensive, and it is painful for the people that love you. Even if you don't love them back, anybody that loves you is going on this journey with you, and so you have to remember that. Because it's everybody that's around you that's impacted if you don't plan. So you might be saying like, okay, But first I'm going to tell you about a lady right here in Bridgeville. And you might have seen, she posted on Nextdoor a few years ago, but it gives me chills just thinking about Susan and her husband Alex. So they're in the 40s, they got 3 kids, they're in elementary school, they're living in Bridgeville, and they're like, okay, this is the good life. Susan's staying at home, she's, involved in all the school activities, taking care of the kids, the husband's working. She's like, this is better than anything she could have thought that she was going to ever have. Most of us didn't grow up that way, right? We grew up in, I don't know, more of the lower middle class, I would suppose. And so here she is, living in a beautiful house, wonderful husband, everything's great. Until it's not. And all of a sudden, Alex has a stroke. And he passes away. He did have a will, which is good. But what does that will do? So immediately, Susan's got some shock, grief, and funeral arrangements. I mean, you got to start making those things within 24 hours. And those are some decisions that I thought was completely overwhelming when I had to make it. Like, what kind of casket? Well, I'm still dealing with the loss. I didn't realize I was going casket shopping. It never occurred to me to do that kind of shopping. But here I am in what kind of casket? And I mean, they all kind of look the same, right? But there's different woods, there's different metals, there's different interior. It's like, oh my God, are you kidding me? Why are there 20 different types right here? Plus, we could go to the catalog and get some more. I know, it's like, please, no, I don't want to see any more. And then people start disagreeing. Luckily for Susan, she was the only one, so that she didn't have to worry about those kinds of decisions. But there's other decisions. Okay, so you got a casket. Are you going to have a service at church? Are you going to have something at the funeral home? Are you going to be cremated? Are you going to be buried? All of those things that nobody's prepared for in the first 24 hours. But there were some other things that Susan had to start thinking about pretty quickly, and that's her kids. So the kids don't understand this, grade school kids. I mean, how do you tell them that Daddy's not coming home and why? Nobody understands that. I don't understand that. So how can you have kids that understand? The other thing is that she couldn't get access to all the money. So they had a joint bank account, and she could get access to that. But a lot of their money was in like a 401k for him from work. And he didn't get a good beneficiary on there. He had his estate. And sometimes people are told to do that. Well, your estate goes through probate court. So she can't even get to that money. She doesn't have any income. Her income was from Alex. So how does she start paying the bills? And let me tell you, the funeral home wants paid now. And you don't have the money to pay them in a type of situation like this. So it ended up that her house was foreclosed on. Because even when someone passes away, whether you live in the house or not, someone's got to pay the mortgage. I don't know about you, but every neighborhood I've ever lived in, there's a house there that is empty. Nobody's living in it, but it's not up for sale. Have you ever seen those houses in neighborhoods? No? Some of you? Those are in probate court. That's why they're sitting there. Nobody can do anything with it while it's going through this probate court process. So even if she had the wherewithal to like refinance or take out some kind of HELOC loan or something, she can't because she can't do anything on this house. Plus she's got to pay the utilities and the taxes and the insurance and all of her other living expenses. So she just can't afford that. And she's trying to deal with that as well as with the shop. Kids were going to private school. Well, that was out. So now the kids have to change schools pretty quickly, which again, they don't understand. But now we've upset their whole life. And I wish you could read this documentation or whatever, the story that she wrote Nextdoor, because it was very long, and I'm like crying, I'm feeling so bad for her. I called her up to see if I could help her, but
she's not the only one that goes through this. She just didn't have any idea. And then instead of having this wonderful life, now all she can do is worry about what's going to happen to her, what's going to happen to her children, because it just imploded. Everything that she thought was her life just imploded.
So Susan and the kids ended up having to move back to North Carolina with her parents. She ended up getting a full-time job, but she's living with her mom and dad. What do you think her dad is doing? He's criticizing Alex every single day because he didn't take care of them. And that's what her kids are hearing too. And she just feels like there's no way out of this situation.